Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is it. This is the big one. Manchester United travelling to the King Power Stadium to face the mighty Leicester City in the Premier League. Joining me is Mr. James Young. Youngie, how are you feeling, bro?
Well, there's a fresh sense of optimism after last night's game. I can't remember the last time I left Old Trafford actually in a good mood.
I know it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Comfortable wins. We don't want to see that. Pathetic. We did obviously score 4 against Real Sociedad. Bruno Fernandes getting 3 of them, which is it's good to see. But goals have been an issue for this team, especially in the attack. Now, Leicester are absolutely in free fall. Well, not in free fall because there's not much more lower they can get. But they are struggling. Unfortunately for Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's not been able to turn it around or get a new manager bounce. It's just been pretty woeful since he's been there, if we're being brutally honest. This seems like a sort of an opportune moment to get some goals, for the strikers in particular, the attackers, to get amongst the goals. What have you made of the attack recently? And do you think this could be a game for them? Because we saw Rasmus Højlund do, he probably had a better game, I think, against Sociedad, but still, you can still see he's reaching for that goal. He's desperate for that goal. He's not scored in 21 games. Xerxes, who I thought played quite well and was entertaining and getting compared to Dimitar Berbatov, but doesn't score a lot of goals. Do you think this could be a game for them?
Well, we've seen Xerxes hold up playing actually while United signed him for the first few times recently in the last few games, and I think he actually offers a lot more going forward than Højlund does. And I think as well, even though United scored 4 against Sociedad, 2 of them were penalties, so I think that's more of a concern in terms of going forward. Fernandes is still helping United out a lot at the minute in terms of scoring goals and creating chances, and a lot of times, too many times this season, it's been Fernandes on the edge of the box having to create something for himself because the strikers aren't doing it for him. And I think that's what United need to look at going forward towards the end of the season, when United are playing teams like Lyon that are going to be better sides in the Europa League, to get that confidence up within those strikers, because they can't be relying on Fernandes all the time to bail them out.
No, it is a little bit of a worry how reliant on Bruno Fernandes we have become, because obviously Ahmad was scoring early on the season. He isn't Chido, who can play in this game. He wasn't eligible, obviously, for the Europa League, but he's a kid. He's 17. He's barely had any professional minutes. Then you've got, obviously, the issues with some of the players. Like, we need someone other than Bruno to step up, and there's been goals from these players before. Rasmus Højlund scores at 16 in his first season, scored a lot in the Champions League, and then had a mad purple patch in the Premier League. Joshua Xerxes obviously scored goals for Bologna and has got some goals this season for Manchester United, although not many. And we know what Alejandro Garnacho is capable of, so we just need to see that. And I think these games like this, there's almost no excuse, really. You've got to get up for it, and you've got to really test Leicester, who, as I said earlier, I'd be amazed if they're not in the Championship next season. We mentioned Bruno Fernandes. Fantastic performance against Sociedad. He gets a hat-trick. He's had a lot of criticism, not just this season, but he seems to get a lot of criticism from all sorts of different quarters, doesn't he, Bruno Fernandes? And I understand sometimes you can get a little bit frustrated with him when he's trying certain things that aren't coming off, but for me, Bruno Fernandes has always been a phenomenal player for Manchester United, and I feel grateful we've got him. And it's sort of, it's an old argument or an old question, but where would we be without Bruno? What are your thoughts on Fernandes?
It's frustrating because people criticise him for giving the ball away and that type of thing, but that's because he's trying to create stuff.
Exactly.
And I think that's what frustrates me, especially with those type of comments. Without Fernandes in that team, United are going to be in a relegation battle like that. That's just me being honest. And I think if you look at how many times he saved United this season, how many goals he scored, not even being a striker, goal contributions, he's by far the best player in the squad, and he carries them as well a lot of the time. United don't have many experienced leaders in the squad, especially when you're bringing through young players like Chido, like Heaven. You need players in that team like Fernandes that are going to lift them when they play, and without him in the squad, maybe Maguire, but I can't think of many other leaders that are even close to him.
No, I agree. I think you're right. He is a leader and he gets some stick, but there's so many traits about Bruno that I love. For start, not just the goals and assists and the chances he creates, the amount of ground he covers, the energy and the effort he puts in. The fact he's never injured. He plays every game. We have had non-stop injury crises at United. It's one thing after another. And this season, you look at the amount of important players we're missing, like Lisandro Martinez, like Ahmad, like Kobbie Mainoo, one or two others as well. Luke Shaw, we just forget about. We'll talk about Mason Mount in a minute. Bruno Fernandes is constantly available. He constantly wants the ball. He constantly tries to make things happen. And when he loses it, he constantly tracks back and tries to win it back. I think the criticism is just so OTT. And it saddens me sometimes when I see ex-players and ex-United players and pundits digging into him. Because I think, come on, man, you've got to have a little bit of context here. You've got to understand the team that he's in, the players he's surrounded by, what he's having to work with, and what he's doing. And I think Bruno Fernandes, and I'll say this with my chest out, walks into any Premier League team.
Oh, totally, I totally agree.
Even like Liverpool, City, whoever, Arsenal, he gets in their team.
And also as well, he's a very likeable person aside from football as well. Obviously, you need to be a good player on the pitch, but the amount of stuff he does for the foundation, the amount of people that have told me that he's a really good person to work with. Not every United player in the last few years have had the same things sort of said about them. So I think as a leader as well off the pitch, he's almost like a perfect role model for the young players coming through.
And ask yourself how often we say that about Manchester United players. Not all the time, is it? Before we get into Predicted 11, I want to remind everyone at home, get your phones out, give us your score predictions, film yourself in landscape like that. Yeah, on your phone, 30 seconds in landscape. Give us your score predictions for Leicester City versus Manchester United. Send it to paddockmatchday@gmail.com, and we will use that as part of our pre-match build-up for the watch-along. And who knows, maybe we'll get you on the channel as well. You could be sat where James is. Younger used to send us videos, and now he's part of the family. Let's talk about your predicted 11 then. You can talk us through it. You can see it up here. So I'm looking at, we know that there's one or two doubts of who could be available, who might be available, who should feature but might not start. You've gone with a back three of Heaven, De Ligt and Lindelof. I want to ask you about Aidan Heaven. What have you made of him so far?
I think he's been very promising, but again, it's the problem that United have in terms of injuries. And I've said this before, but the amount of money they've spent on players, that Heaven's basically going to have to start because there's no one else that can really play in that position this weekend. So I think it's a risk, and this is what we were saying before. In terms of leaders in that team, my concern with players like Heaven and with Toby Martin coming through is, apart from Fernandes, apart from maybe Maguire, who's obviously not available, there's not many leaders that can actually push them through. And people talk about the class of '92 and all the young players that came through. They always had leaders on the pitch that elevated them to that level. So I think he's a good player, and I think there's potential there, but we've just got to be really careful that we don't burn him out. We don't start him in too many games when he's not ready, and we've seen that before, especially with defenders. You look at McNair, if you look at Blackett, they started and they shone really brightly to begin with, and then they just played too many games, and it happened a bit too fast. So I think we've just got to be slightly careful.
No, I completely agree with that. Going through the rest of your team here, you've got Bruno Fernandes and Ugarte in the centre of midfield there. Now, Mason Mount, we hear like it's a scoop. The manager told everyone that Mason Mount should be available for this game, but I don't think he's going to start. He said he's not going to start. So we expect him to feature. He'll be on the bench, and I do want to see him brought on at some point. Now, you've got Garnacho, you've got Xerxes, you've got Hoyle in his front three. I mean, there's a good chance that we see someone like a Xerxes or Garnacho come off for Mason Mount, maybe even a Ugarte, who's obviously coming back from injury himself, but I definitely expect Mason Mount to feature. But that front three makes sense because who else have you got available? Maybe you could start Cheeto, but I doubt it. Also, Hoyland needs to keep playing because we need him in the Europa League. Cheeto can't play in the Europa League. Now's not the time to be rotating. Keep him in there. Hopefully he'll get a goal soon and we can, get
Well, you don't want the negative connotations that comes with losing to Leicester in the league. Ultimately the focus is the Europa League now this season, but if you start losing games in the Premier League, that starts to affect confidence. Fans start to get on the manager's back again. It's just unhelpful and unnecessary. And I know it's mad that we're already talking about this in March, but Lyon is basically the season now, pretty much. That's it.
It's not. You're right. Like Sociedad was the season. I said it before the Sociedad game. The Europa is our season. We ain't getting European football via the league. We're not. We're certainly not getting Champions League football. The only way we're going to end up in Europe next season is by winning the Europa. The only trophy we can win is the Europa League. So that is what it's all about. Yes, you want to win your bread and butter matches in the Premier League and it can affect your revenue and all the rest of it, but the priority is the Europa League. But you're right, you can't just go losing all your Premier League games and then hope to turn up
people forget that
on a Thursday night.
Under Mourinho, when United won it that season, the league form was abysmal, and the Celta Vigo game in the semi-final, if Guidetti puts that chance away in the last minute, then the season's over,
Yeah, 100%. I was like, it was just such a gamble that one by Jose. Like you say, he just went for it from January. He was like, right, okay, we'll just focus on this. My team, very similar to yours. I've just got Lindelof in the middle. I think, was it against Arsenal he was in the middle, I want to say. My memory's terrible, but I think he was in the middle for that one. He carried the ball out of defence quite well as well. Maybe you can link up a little bit with that midfield, but we haven't got many options. I don't expect there to be any surprises. Maguire, it looks like he probably isn't going to be fit for this one or fit to start, but we'll wait and see. And as I said, Mason Mount should feature off the bench. Get involved in the chat and comments and let us know what you think about those teams. Let's talk about Leicester. We play Leicester every week, don't we? And it's quite good that we beat them when we play them, because if we didn't, it'd be an even worse season. They've struggled, and it's sad to see it, because we love Rude.
Yeah, and I think they're one of the only teams United are unbeaten against this season, if I think I'm right in saying.
I think there's, I mean, them
up until we lost
Southampton, maybe. Ruud's record at Leicester is 17 games. He's won 3, he's drawn 2, and he's lost 12. It's just not happened for him, has it? It was a gamble going there, and it looks like it's a gamble that hasn't paid off. I think they failed to score in the last 5 league games as well. I mean, there is a possibility that Ruud van Nistelrooy could get sacked by the end of the season, which sounds insane considering he only went there a few months ago, but they might just get fed up of losing every week.
Well, I think it was a massive risk employing him in the first place when the situation that they found themselves in. I mean, Ruud van Nistelrooy did an okay job at PSV, but he's got no experience in a relegation battle in the Premier League. And I think it's very difficult when you go from a side like PSV, when you're competing for titles and trophies in the Netherlands, to not go into another big club, but one at the bottom of the table where you're expected to play a certain style of football basically to keep the side up. And so I think he's been given a bit of a tough time of it in the sense that he's coming halfway through the season. It's going to take a while for him to implement, the style of football that we saw actually at United was always a similar style that Ten Hag played in those few games when he was interim manager. The plays that he's got, I just don't think it's working.
No, I agree. We love Ruud, but obviously I don't want to see him turn it around now. I want to see him lose another game, unfortunately. But I'm a United fan rather than just a Ruud van Nistelrooy fan. After this game, then he can start winning. With all that being said, then, give us your score prediction.
I think Manchester United should win comfortably.
Right.
But having said that, I can't see them keeping a clean sheet. So I'm going to say 3-1 to United.
Crikey. 3-1. I'm going to go the other way. Not the result. I think it might be a bit closer, and I think we can keep a clean sheet just because Leicester are so poor. I think it'll be 1-0 United. I'm going to go with Rasmus Højlund to finally break his duck. Yeah, I know he scored this season, but it's been 21 games. Come on, he's due a goal. This is the time to get one. So I'll go 1-0 Højlund. Get involved in the chat in the comments, and don't forget as well to send us your score predictions at paddockmatchday@gmail.com. Youngie, where can people find you?
James_Young, Instagram, all one the word underscore. And also,
go on, do your little plug.
Hang on.
Where is it?
I should really get this ready.
It's alright, we're keeping all this in, by the way. We're not editing any of this out. I want to see James going through his rucksack.
Latest United We Stand is on sale in all good news agents in Manchester. There we are.
Brings back memories, that. I thought you were going to bring out one of your poetry books, but it's United We Stand. Brings latest United We Stand out today. See, I've still got it.
Yeah.
30 years later, still got it. Thank you, Youngie. Go and check him out and go and check out United We Stand and get it bought. You know where to find me. We're going to be back on Sunday for the watch along. That's been James Young. I'm Jay Motti. This has been a preview. Leicester City versus Manchester United. Thanks for watching.